what we teach people is not so much the tools that people can use, but we teach people the general and universal process that goes on when issues are solved that were previously unsolved. And to give you an inkling of to what that means is that a problem, as Einstein said already, a problem cannot be solved within the context in which it occurs. Yeah? So the idea of concept, which is not important in the training, we're not necessarily talking about it, but mentally you can understand that if you try to measure, let's say, a millimeter in the context where the sizes that you use are only centimeters, yeah, then all of a sudden that centimeter can never solve an issue that relates to smaller than the centimeter. Okay. Now, in order to work with something that needs a millimeter size of tool, you have to realize that the centimeter is the problem. And it's not always a problem, because normally the centimeter can do everything you need, but in certain circumstances it's just not sufficient. And what we show people, and we make them aware of in the process, is that there's a universal aspect to how these contexts limit you and enable you. And then at a certain point, people start to understand that what is general about how these things get solved. And once that's aware, people become aware of how they themselves form those limited contexts that stop them from seeing the solutions. And that's something different than giving people a tool. It's giving people the ability to create tools wherever they need them. If you are put in a situation where you're facilitated to discover inside of yourself how things inside of you function, how it works when it does, that is sort of, it's almost revived, because I think it's been there all along, but it's lost, but it hasn't been there in a way that it's a conscious ability. So that's what will be added to the situation. And most people that are in the training all of a sudden recognize, once they see it again, they say, oh, but wait a second, I already knew this. How come I didn't recognize it? Because it was separated from who you think you are. Yeah. So your life doesn't really change that much, but the way you experience it is just a whole different deal. It's like you normally are frustrated by the arguments you have with your loved one, and now those same arguments give you a clear understanding of the amount of love that flows between you. It's the same world, but it's a completely different experience. And you don't even have to do anything for it, it's automatic. That's what happens. And there where it is not contributing and love and all the words that we normally use to describe those situations, we see what it is we can do in order to improve it, or whether it's or whether what we could do is going to take away the pleasure that we know we can have. So then we leave it. Whatever way, we're at peace with that. So things will change, but not as dramatically as you would consider beforehand. But it will change your life, that's for sure. There's a group of people that have been struggling in their individual ways to solve the issues that are actually a company issue or an organizational issue, and they all of a sudden realize that they can work at that in unison, and that we've given them a principled way or a way to go about it, where we're not adding one and one and making it two. So we're trying to find a combination of people that complement each other in terms of their abilities, but that we have found a way that whatever the group is, that if everybody goes from the assumption that we are struggling with the same issue principally, then all of a sudden each and everybody's discovery in that environment exponentially adds to the awareness of the group, and then all of a sudden any group can function better in that way than they could ever work if they go at it from a conventional way. by portraying it in a very simple model that, as far as I see, takes complete account of everything that I see, know, and cannot deny. Okay, and that model is the basis for the interaction that we're going to have, and the guideline for moving towards the realizations that we see are possible. So that part would be the structural part. We need to bring forward vocabulary and the what's the word for saman?
Connection, or?
Yeah, the connection between the words and the concepts within that model, so we at least can start to talk the same language. Yeah? And we can have interactions around the meaning of those words, and then we come to a certain decision. And from that we say, okay, so if everybody can live with this model conception and the words that we use for that, then now we have a basis to start confronting our individual perspectives to discover the limitations and the possibilities that are in there, and maybe come to a new perception of what would take all of that into account. Our job is to help people recognize what it is that just changed the moment they see something anew. Because through that recognition and repetition of that recognition, something universal is discovered about paradigm shifts in general. And that's the new dimension that is added to the picture. So normally it's like, well, I have a new paradigm and I don't know who I was before, but this is who I am now. And what we're trying to do is, okay, so this is who you were before, this is who you are now. What changed and what were the circumstances and what did you do or leave out in order for that to become possible? And the moment they're there, and once they see the connection and they see it so clearly that there's nothing that is unexplained and everything is explained for what they just experienced, then that's where the light turns on. And once it's been on, it becomes easier and easier to get there. If it depends on what you can imagine, then it's still limited. Because what we're talking about is always moving beyond your imagination. It's always it's a wonder every time again. If you allow the consciousness to grow to the point where the discomfort is there, and what you see possible, but you do not see how to resolve the things that stand in its way, and you just allow that to happen and happen, and before you know it, a solution pops in your head, and you just, where did that come from? My God, that could not be. And then all of a sudden you realize, it's true. Oh my, I thought that's impossible. The wonder of it. Every time again. And it's not depending on anything or anybody. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Very rewarding. And you can still be very individual if that's important to you. You can use it in any direction that you find things that are important to you.